Morant with a running start. Oh, it dunks! Oh, my goodness! Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant! Oh, he hit it! John Morant, insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies returned home on Sunday and beat the Denver Nuggets somewhat easily. It was a game where the Nuggets didn't have Nikola Jokic. The Grizzlies debuted their sweet new red city jerseys. That win snapped a 2-game losing streak as they bounced back from losing their first group play game in the NBA Cup. They got handled by the Golden State Warriors on Friday night, despite a furious rally in the final few minutes to boost that point differential that might be important when it comes to the NBA Cup standings. Anyways, on today's episode, I'm going to talk about the win over the Nuggets and also talk about the loss against the Warriors. Before we get there, just a reminder, if you want to support this show and join my listener Slack channel, you can do all of that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Also, if you join up over there, you get one monthly bonus episode. So help me out, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right. As a bit of an overview, I think once the Grizzlies blew out the Trailblazers by 45, we were all feeling great. And of course, we needed to feel great, or we deserved to feel great. We were 7-4, despite all of the injury issues, despite players coming in and out of the lineups. And I think most of us looked at the road trip, or the remainder of that road trip, the game against the Lakers, and then the game against the Warriors as kind of a measuring stick to see, all right, how good are we? How do we stack up against these teams, a healthy Lakers team and a Warriors team that's playing really, really well? Well, I think we sort of got our answer. We're not as good as those teams yet, which is not a big deal because the Grizzlies are not at full strength. And the game against the Lakers, you played, I thought, well, but the Lakers they were better than you, flat out. And you felt the absences of the talent in your lineup. Against the Warriors, all right, the Warriors game was highlighted, I think, from our perspective, with the return of Vince Williams Jr., with Marcus Smart being available, with Desmond Bane returning from his injury. All of a sudden, we're getting very, very close to our full-strength team. Of course, we're still missing John Morant, but like having Desmond and Marcus and Vince, we're like, all right, let's see how we do. This is exciting. Now, a big storyline that I'm going to talk about is the lineups and the starting lineup specifically against the Warriors. You're thinking, oh, we have Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, and Vince Williams Jr. back. Who's going to start? Jalen Wells and Scottie Pippen. All of those guys are coming off the bench. But still, you were pretty much full strength and you wanted to see how you stacked up. And it wasn't a close game. The Warriors pulled away. And the reason of that, beyond any lineup weirdness or our questioning rotation decisions, the reason was the Grizzlies couldn't make three-pointers. The Grizzlies were just 7 for 41 on three-pointers. Perhaps the worst three-point shooting performance in the history of the team. At least on that high volume it was. But still, losing against the Warriors is no big deal, but you drop those two games. You're like, how good are we? Let's play the Lakers and Warriors on the road and see how we do. All right, not that great. Then you bounce back at home. You get to play the Nuggets, but no Jokic, no Aaron Gordon. You take care of business. Your defense holds the Nuggets to 90 points, and you score enough. You make enough three-pointers. You hit 9 three-pointers in the first half. You only made 4 out of 17 three-pointers in the second half. Not very good. You built up a 24-point lead. Great. Nuggets cut it to 11. Not the best. But you win the game. And now you've won 4 straight at home, which is awesome. You're 8-6 overall. And I'm reminded of one of my favorite movies, Burn After Reading. I posted something about this on social media. At the end of the movie, the J.K. Simmons character says, "What have we learned?" I don't know. And I think it's fair. We're still not sure what the Grizzlies are exactly, but they're winning enough to maintain their spot in the Western Conference. They're in a good spot for the playoff race, and now they're just taking care of business against the bad teams. Are they beating good teams? They're not yet, which again, not a big deal. Like, even if you look at all 14 games the Grizzlies have played, I'm trying to look at the ones where I consider the Grizzlies played a good team. All right, the road game against the Rockets, you got smashed. You beat the Magic. I think the Magic are a good team. The Magic were healthy at that point. It was the second out of a back-to-back for both teams. But the Grizzlies beat the Magic. I think that's their best win of the year as far as the strength of the opponent. You beat the Bucks handily. Are the Bucks any good? I mean, the Bucks are 4-9. But the Bucks had Giannis and Damian Lillard, and they thought they were going to be good this year. So maybe that's a good win. I don't know. Maybe since the Bucks are 4-9, you say the Bucks are bad. But the good teams you played, the Rockets you lost, the Magic you won. Then you played the Lakers without AD or Rui Hachimura. I don't think that really counts. The other teams you played that were good, Lakers on the road, full strength. Warriors on the road, full strength. You lost those games. So I think you're 1-3 against good teams. You're 7-3 against everybody else. Those 3 losses are the 2 Nets games and the Bulls game. And honestly, I'm still feeling pretty good. It's a fine place to be. We've found that Jalen Wells can play. Zach Edey has looked good. Scottie Pippen Jr. has played well. I mean, again, you go back to that stat that right now, the top 4 guys in minutes on the Grizzlies, it's still Santi Aldama, Jake LaRavia, Scottie Pippen Jr., and Jalen Wells. To be 8-6 with those 4 guys, having played the most minutes, I will take it. I will take it. 10 out of 10. But let's go back a little bit to the Warriors game. So the Warriors loss, an exciting NBA Cup matchup. It felt like a playoff game. I don't know if it was the extra energy of it being Cup basketball. Perhaps it was just the rivalry between these two teams. They don't like each other very much. Maybe it was just that it was 2 pretty good teams. I mean, the Warriors have been good. The Grizzlies have been good, despite their opponents. So it was a tough game. The refs were letting them play. In the third quarter, they started calling more fouls. The Warriors got very mad about this. The Grizzlies shot 19 free throws in the third quarter against the Warriors. That's a lot for a quarter. Draymond Green ends up getting ejected at the end of the game. Draymond Green, after the game, the league reviewed the foul he did on Zach Edey. It was clearly a flagrant foul. I don't understand the officials who review so many things not reviewing that. The coaching staff for the Grizzlies is like, hey, that's a flagrant foul. You got to review that. You got to review it. They're like, nope, I saw it. Not a flagrant foul. Well, it turns out it was a flagrant foul. So Draymond pulls off the ejection through technical fouls. Also gets a flagrant. Also gets a lot of steals and rebounds and assists in the victory. So a very Draymond Green game. But that game, I think, was notable for us because of who the Grizzlies started. The Grizzlies started Scottie Pippen Jr., Jalen Wells, Santi Aldama, Jaren, and Brandon. Now, my big spiel about why it was ridiculous to have Vince Williams Jr., Desmond Bane, and Marcus Smart all coming off the bench. I mean, beyond the fact that I like playing my best players the most minutes possible, and I like having my best players play together the most minutes possible. I mean, very simply, I think the best way to guarantee you put your best lineups on the court for the longest amount of time is to start them. Because with the return of all those guys, we got Vince, we got Desmond, we got Marcus. Those are our 3 best wings, I think. I mean, I guess there's an argument to be made that Marcus Smart is not one, but I assume the coaching staff thinks that he is one. And so the idea is, all right, Jaren's our best player. I mean, Jaren's been incredible. I probably should just focus on how good Jaren Jackson Jr. has been this year. He's been outrageously good. Jaren right now is 6th in the NBA in points per minute. He's ahead of Luka Doncic and Donovan Mitchell. among other players. The only players he trails, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis Antetokounmpo, LaMelo Ball, Jason Tatum, and Anthony Davis. Jaren's been incredible. But the way I look at the Grizzlies right now is how do we surround Jaren and Desmond Bane? Which players are out there to complement Jaren and Desmond Bane? Now, Desmond Bane came off the bench. So right there, I'm like, oh, that means very few Desmond and Jaren minutes together. And I understand why they did it. I think my first thought, outside of saying this is Looney Tunes, when finding out that Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, and Vince Williams Jr. would all be coming off the bench, my thought was, oh, well, someone has a pretty extreme minutes limitation for this game. Now, after the game, Desmond Bane said he did have a minutes limitation, but I think it was just play under 30 minutes. He played 28 minutes in that game, which is no big deal. Okay, you can tell me it doesn't matter who starts. It just matters who closes the game, and it just matters if people play their normal allotment of minutes. So in the case of Desmond Bane, I'll grant you, all right, fine. He played 28 minutes. That totally works. It just matters who closes the game. I vehemently disagree with that one. And I think a perfect example of my argument is what happened in this game. If we're trying to surround Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. with the best players possible, you think, okay, so surely those two guys played some minutes with Marcus Smart, right? Surely Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. played with Marcus Smart, at least for like 1 minute in the first half? Nope. They didn't share the court once in the first half. The first time Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. played with Marcus Smart was 5 minutes into the second half, and the Grizzlies were down 12 at that point. They also didn't play Vince Williams Jr. alongside Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. My take on Vince Williams Jr., which admittedly is a bit of an extremist position. I think the guy's incredible. But I think he's just like skeleton key that unlocks everything good. He's a connective piece. I want to see him playing alongside Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. Vince only played alongside Desmond and Jaren in the final 4 minutes of the game against the Warriors. He didn't play 1 second with Jaren and Desmond in the game on Sunday against the Nuggets. But the first time that Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. played with Vince Williams Jr. against the Warriors, 4 minutes left, you're losing by 18. So it doesn't matter who closes the game more than who starts the game, in my opinion. It matters how many minutes can you get with your best players all together. Now, I understand why they do some of these things. Like, I understand why Marcus didn't play that many minutes with Desmond and Jaren, or any minutes with Desmond and Jaren in the first half. It's because they're staggering the minutes of Desmond and Jaren, which is good. We support them doing this. You need to have one of those guys on the court at all times. So if you're staggering them, there are fewer minutes where they overlap. Of course, that makes sense. And because there's fewer minutes where they overlap, there's fewer opportunities to play Vince or Marcus alongside both Desmond and Jaren. And the reason we're doing this is so for all 24 minutes of a half, our lineups are not horrible. I support that. And it's an interesting question to say, would you rather, for 24 minutes of a half, would you rather you play lineups that are pretty good for all 24 minutes? Or would you like to play lineups that are great for 12 minutes, pretty good for 6 minutes, and then not good for 6 minutes? I don't know the answer of what's better. I probably lean towards pretty good for all 24 minutes if I'm given that option. I mean, if the Grizzlies did 6 minutes of bad lineups and got outscored by 15, I would come on here and be like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. Why do those guys play together? But I don't think that's a pure example of what's happening. I think you have the option, with the depth the Grizzlies have, with the return of Desmond Bane and Vince Williams Jr. and Marcus Smart, you have the option of playing great lineups for 6 to 12 minutes a half, and then good to pretty good lineups for the rest of the half. And even if you're staggering Desmond and Jaren, so there's fewer minutes where they overlap, the idea of starting them together guarantees that you will get some awesome lineups. It doesn't matter what happens with foul trouble. It doesn't matter what happens with the score of the game. If you start your best players, that guarantees you get more minutes of your best players playing together, which sounds remedial when you say it out loud, but here we are. Feels like it needs to be said again. In the game against the Warriors, you're starting Scottie Pippen Jr. and Jalen Wells. The game, that specific game, felt a little bit too big for them. Neither player played very well. There were some defensive breakdowns early in the game. Now, some of that, I think, was the strategy of trying to deny Steph Curry the basketball. They were top-blocking Steph Curry to keep him from shooting. That worked. Steph didn't make a shot until there was just a few minutes left in the second quarter. But they gave up a bunch of layups to Andrew Wiggins because they were overplaying Steph Curry. So maybe you say the strategy still worked. You kept Steph Curry to not having a huge offensive impact on that game as far as its individual numbers. But my thinking is that's probably because you're playing Scottie Pippen Jr. and Jalen Wells, guys who are newer to the game, as opposed to having more experienced players out there. But still, all of this energy I've expended trying to explain why I don't understand why you would bring your three best wings off the bench, still none of it really would have mattered if the Grizzlies made three-pointers. And I acknowledge that. And maybe it was good for Scottie and Jalen to get their feet wet in a big game against a team better than them. Hopefully you will reap the benefits of that somewhere down the line. Those guys getting that experience. But I certainly was bothered by the idea that you're not playing Desmond and Jaren with Marcus or Vince Williams Jr. I mean, also, that doesn't even mention, imagine playing all four of them at the same time. I would argue your best four available players in that game, Desmond, Jaren, Marcus, and Vince. They didn't play a second together. So that I wasn't the most thrilled by. And I think it's going to be a continuing, not issue, but it's going to be something that we're going to have to just, I guess, maybe get over going forward, because with the depth of the team, I think there's going to be reasonable people who can make an argument for a lot of different lineup combinations. The only things we're certain of are that Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane need to be out there, and when Ja gets healthy, Ja needs to be out there. By the way, Ja apparently is having more imaging done today on Monday, November 18th. He said on social media he'll be back sooner than you know. I don't know what he thinks we think it's going to be. This injury, because he's been on crutches for so long, seems like it doesn't feel like he's going to return imminently. But we should find out more maybe later today, or if not on Monday, on Tuesday, an update on when Ja Morant's going to be back. But we know Ja, Dez, and Jaren. That's our big three. Everybody, I think for the rest of the whole season, is going to disagree about who should be out there with them. I'm a Vince Williams Jr. man. I say play him all the time. I like them starting Brandon Clark. I mean, Brandon Clark has continued to start when he's been healthy because they moved Zach Edey to the bench. I support this. That's my opinion, though. It's subjective. Brandon Clark and Jaren Jackson Jr. minutes have been a weapon for years. And in previous years, I've complained like, hey, why are we bringing Brandon off the bench? It seems like we're always trying to close games with this duo because we know it's good. Well, you could guarantee yourself more minutes than playing together if you started them together. So far, they're doing that. I don't care that Brandon Clark's barely shooting the basketball. I care a little bit that he keeps shooting three-pointers. I might be ready for that to be over. The Brandon Clark wide open corner three-pointer when there's 15 seconds left on the shot clock, I think I'm good. I think I've seen enough. But beyond the three-point shooting, I'm totally in to everything Brandon Clark's doing. When Brandon and Jaren share the court together this year, the Grizzlies have a 93 defensive rating. They have a plus 28 net rating when those two guys are out there. It's awesome. Of course, Jaren's doing the heavy lifting of that. But the way Brandon, I think, unlocks Jaren on defense, the way the entire team is cohesive with those switchable bigs, I love it. And I understand people are going to clamor for Zach Edey to start, Zach Edey to play more minutes. Not me. Zach Edey's been good. Zach Edey played well against the Warriors. Zach Edey came in against the Nuggets and was tremendous. Now, Zach Edey got injured against the Nuggets. Zach Edey twisted his ankle and then apparently re-injured it in the third quarter. Of course, Zach Edey twisted his ankle in each of the Summer League games he played. So Zach Edey right now, we don't know if he's going to play on Tuesday in the NBA Cup game, the rematch against the Nuggets. I would expect Nikola Jokic to play in that game. He missed the last 2 games due to a birth of a child. I guess he'd be back, but who knows? Maybe not. But Zach Edey's been great. I'm still comfortable with him coming off the bench. I think having Brandon play alongside Jaren, be a low usage guy in these lineups that already have scorers, that already have shooters, works fine to me. And then Zach can come in and wreck some second units. Zach's immediate impact against the Nuggets, I mean, it was huge. He comes right in, drains a long 2-pointer. His toe was on the line. It looked like he was going to go 7 for 10 on threes for the season. He hits a 3 against the Warriors, which gets him up to 6 for 9 on 3-pointers for the season, which is amazing. Then he comes in against the Nuggets, drains his first shot, toe on the line. He misses one later in the game, a 3-pointer. So he's 6 for 10 on the season on 3-pointers. But he hits that jumper, comes down, blocks Jamal Murray's shot, then gets a steal, throws it ahead to Desmond Bane for a rare Desmond Bane dunk. So within seconds of being on the court, Edey has 2 points, a block, a steal, and an assist. Immediate impact. The first 5 minutes of the game, when Edey wasn't out there, they were a mess. I mean, they were awful. The Grizzlies couldn't score. They were totally disjointed. Edey comes in, all of a sudden, things settle down a little bit. Now, Edey, before he got hurt, was good, scored 8 points. He was getting set up by his teammates. I mean, Luke Kennard had a great playmaking game. Luke Kennard's been doing a great job playmaking this entire season. But Luke throws him a little alley-oop where he draws the defense. Santi hit him with a nice entry pass. So Edey scores. He still left a little bit out there that could have been better. He got a dunk blocked by Jamal Murray when Aldama found him right in front of the goal. He also had a play where he got fouled on a dunk attempt, and Brevin Knight was talking about it on the broadcast. He needs to finish those. You want to be greedy. You want more. We need Zach Edey to finish those plays, to dunk the ball quicker. But still, Zach Edey has been really, really good in his minutes. Hopefully this latest injury will not keep him out very long. But that being said, I'm fine with Edey coming off the bench. If it turns out the way the game's going, he needs to close the games, that's fine. But the other guys alongside Desmond and Jaren and then Ja, who knows? I think it's Vince. Marcus Smart could be the answer when Marcus Smart is healthy. He missed the game against the Nuggets because he was ill. Jalen Wells keeps playing well. I feel like I always say he plays well, and I'm pretty sure it's because his last name is Wells. I'm going to start saying good for him. He played real good. No, but Jalen, he's no longer like the top rookie in the NBA. He briefly was number 1 on NBA.com's rookie ladder. He's been passed. There's a guy named Jared McCain who's been amazing for the Sixers. Also, I'd say Edey has passed him. Edey's been really, really good. I mean, Dalton Connect had a great week if we're just talking about rookies. But like Jalen Wells plays solid defense, and he's one of those ideal 5th starter type guys. 3-and-D player. He's been doing it. Should he come off the bench and do it? Maybe. Is there some hesitation to maybe not pair him and Edey together so you don't have 2 rookies on the court at the same time? I don't know. If it were up to me, and of course it's not, I would still, when Marcus Smart's available, I would start Marcus and Desmond and Brandon and Jaren and then Vince Williams Jr. I mean, Desmond, Marcus, Vince, Brandon, and Jaren, those are our best 5 players, I think. Then your bench would be Scottie Pippen Jr., Luke Kennard, Jalen Wells, Santi Aldama, Zach Edey, and if you go 11 deep, then Jake LaRavia. I mean, this is going to be the issue. Jake LaRavia continues playing amazingly well. Jake LaRavia is second on the team in plus minus. Now, it would not be full disclosure to tell you that right now Jake LaRavia has a -7 net rating when he's on the court without Jaren. I mean, Jake's played well, but also, like many Grizzlies players, his numbers are greatly boosted by playing with Jaren Jackson Jr., who's been incredible. Anyways, let's take a break now, and then I'll come back, and I'm going to hit some of these individual performances over the last 2 games. All right, against the Nuggets, Jaren led the team with 20 points. Against the Warriors, he led the team with 32 points. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been as dominant as I've ever seen him. I think this might be the best stretch of basketball we've ever seen from Jaren Jackson Jr. I know there's been stretches where he scored more, but I think the combination of what's been asked of him and the efficiency that he has done it right now, it's just amazing. He's averaging 23 points per game this season. His field goal percentage is way over 50%. He's also getting the steals and the blocks. Against the Nuggets, he had 3 blocks and 1 steal, and I feel like that undersells the impact he had on this game. He had so many deflections. He forced a bunch of turnovers and missed shots on plays where he didn't get credit for them. So Jaren keeps playing unbelievably well. He also is making his free throws. He was 14 out of 15 in the 2 games over the weekend. He's shooting 89% from the line over his past 9 games. I mean, honestly, 90%, 89.6%. That's this season if you throw out the first 3 games. So Jaren Jackson Jr. continues playing incredibly well. Desmond Bane against the Nuggets. He had a season-high 11 rebounds and a season-high 7 assists. Only scored 11 points, but I felt like he scored when it mattered. When the lead was cut down to 11 in the fourth quarter, I feel like it was Desmond Bane who came through with the big baskets driving towards the basket. In the game against the Warriors where he came off the bench, he scored 18 points, had 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. He hasn't really done his damage from the three-point line like we expect. I mean, usually you say he's going to make 2 or more threes in every game. He was only 1 for 7 against the Nuggets. He was 1 for 4 against the Warriors. Now, Santi Aldama, he came off the bench. That was the big change for the game against the Nuggets. It ended his run of starting. He still played most of his minutes at the small forward position. Santi continues struggling with his outside shot. He missed all 3 attempts against both the Nuggets and the Warriors, meaning he is now 14% on 3-pointers in the month of November. The first 3 games of the year, reminder, he was 9 for 17 on 3-pointers. He's 7 for 49 since then. There are 163 players in the NBA who have attempted at least 40 3-pointers this season. Santi is 158th in 3-point percentage of those players. Only Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Denny Avdia, Zachary Risache, Alexander Sarr, and Brandon Pajemski have a worse 3-point percentage. Now, Santi, beyond the 3-point shooting, continues making a lot of really good plays. His 2-point percentage is still extremely high. He got 2 steals and a block against the Nuggets. He usually is good every game for a bunch of great assists. He actually didn't get any assists against the Warriors. I think that's more about teammates not making shots. But Santi, the lack of 3-point shooting is a pretty big cap on his value as a player. I think he's still a plus player. He's a valuable player. But if he's not going to make 3-pointers, that really lowers his ceiling for how good he can be and how much he can help the team. Now, For Vince Williams Jr.'s debut game against the Warriors, I thought he was tremendous. Of course, I am not, objective when it comes to Vince Williams Jr. He had 9 points. He had 5 rebounds and 4 assists, also blocked 2 shots. Now, he did miss all 4 of his three-point attempts. One of those is a heave. We shouldn't count those against him. You hear that? Luke Kennard, I won't count your heaves against you. Vince also was just 1 out of 4 from the free throw line. But just seeing him out there doing all of his activity things, I thought was really, really good. Against the Nuggets in the first half, really, really good stuff. He finished the game. He got 4 fouls, which maybe limited his minutes somewhat. He had 3 points, made 1 3-pointer. That was his only made basket. Had 5 assists, which is great. But he only played 13 minutes and 47 seconds. That is quite upsetting. And I know there's a lot of players available for Taylor Jenkins to choose from. And he did airball a 3-pointer. It was the start of, I think, the 4th quarter where he brought the ball at the court. They were kind of running maybe not what they were supposed to run, but usually you think the start of the quarters, the Grizzlies have like a good set called. They normally get baskets, like first plays of every quarter and after timeouts, any inbounds pass, you feel good about what the Grizzlies are going to run. This first possession of the 4th quarter, Vince dribbles the ball up, stands top of the key, eventually just launches a 3-pointer and airballs it. The camera cut to Taylor Jenkins. He made a funny face. So maybe Vince really screwed that play up, and that's why he didn't play very much more after that. But I'm not very excited about Vince only playing 14 minutes in a game. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, among the players who played, he was 10th in minutes. I know Jalen Wells has been playing, good. I almost said well again. Jalen Wells was 6 for 15, scored 15 points. But, I'd rather have Vince Williams Jr. out there for his activity and more of his low usage setup role. Wells likes shooting the basketball. I think I call him low usage sometimes. He likes shooting. He's not shy. He's a weapon. But I don't like Vince Williams Jr. losing his minutes to Jalen Wells. Also, he lost minutes to, say, Scottie Pippen Jr. and Luke Kennard. Now, Luke Kennard, I think, played a really fine game. He had 6 points, had 4 assists, but he closed the game alongside Scottie Pippen Jr. When the game was sort of on the line, when the Nuggets cut it to 11, the closing lineup, Scottie Pippen Jr., Luke Kennard, Desmond Bane, and then Jaren and Brandon. I've already said I have no issue with Jaren and Brandon. Of course, Desmond Bane's going to be out there, but that's a pretty small 5-man unit with Scottie and Luke and Desmond. And Scottie, his point guard play is valuable, the way he creates for others. In this game, he tied a career high with 4 steals. So it was a good game from Scottie. But generally, I'm a little bit nervous if we're playing Scottie and Luke minutes over Vince Williams Jr. minutes. What happens when Marcus Smart comes back? It's just one game, but I feel like this showed that Taylor Jenkins and the coaching staff, they don't have the same confidence in Vince Williams Jr. that I'd have and that a lot of fans that I talk to have. I feel like most of my Patreon supporters in the Grizzlies channel, we are all huge Vince Williams Jr. believers. Now, it makes sense. A lot of them, of course, have consumed my content, so they come at their fandom having heard what I say about stuff a lot. But wasn't thrilled with that development of seeing Vince Williams Jr.'s minutes be that low in a game, but we'll see what happens in the upcoming games. Now, Scottie finished the game 10 points, 4 steals, like I said, also 4 assists, made 2 out of 7 3-pointers. He was just 3 for 12 from the field. And then you include the Warriors game, Scottie missed all 6 of his field goal attempts. Like I said, that game felt a little bit too big for him and Jalen. Jalen did have 16 points, and a lot of that, though, I felt like was when the game was kind of over. The game was over for me against the Warriors midway through the 3rd quarter. But, of course, the Grizzlies put together this amazing stretch down the final 5 minutes, finished the game on a 22-6 run. Point differential, again, it matters in the NBA Cup. Steve Kerr and the Warriors had 0 interest in the point differential. mean, they picked up all those technical fouls down the stretch, and they did not care that the Grizzlies were playing arguably maybe their best lineup. They had Jaren out there with Zach Edey and Vince Williams Jr. and Desmond Bane was out there. But Jalen did have 16 in that game against the Warriors. He's still averaging a little bit over 14 points per game, I think it is, when he starts. Brandon's stats, I mean, I'm just going to point to the team defensive numbers when he's out there. But Brandon against the Warriors only played 13 minutes, 2 points, 5 rebounds, and a steal. Against the Nuggets, Brandon, 8 points, 7 rebounds, and a steal. Zach Edey's final numbers, 7 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. Incredible stats for just 14 minutes of playing time against the Nuggets. Against the Warriors, it was 14 points and 9 rebounds. He continues dominating the offensive glass. That part's great to see. Marcus in the game off the bench, 9 points, 6 assists, 3 turnovers, 5 rebounds, just 1 out of 6 from the three-point line. I mean, the big stat beyond going 7 for 42, I think it said 7 for 41 earlier, 7 for 42 from the three-point line against the Warriors, you could just point to our old buddy Kyle Anderson making 2 3-pointers against the Warriors, meaning Kyle Anderson made as many 3-pointers as Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Santi Aldama, Marcus Smart, Vince Williams Jr., Luke Kennard, Scottie Pippen Jr. made combined. So that's your ball game. But anyways, Jay Huff got in for a few minutes against the Warriors, then against the Nuggets. Once Zach Edey twisted his ankle, Huff got even more minutes. He ended up making 4 out of 5 field goal attempts, rebuilding that really high true shooting percentage. He had 10 points against the Nuggets. And with that, I think we can wrap it up. Oh, Jake LaRavia, I guess I should reemphasize, continues playing great. 7 points, 4 assists, made his only 3-pointer against the Nuggets. 7 points, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks against the Warriors. I mean, I don't know how you take away Jake LaRavia minutes. I think it's going to be Santi who loses his playing time. And Santi's playing well. I don't know what to do. I mean, I could imagine a universe where Brandon Clark goes from starting to not playing when everybody gets healthy. But of course, that would require everyone to get healthy. So who knows if we see that. Anyways, the game on Tuesday, of course, an NBA Cup game. It is essentially an elimination game for the Nuggets and the Grizzlies. They both lost their first NBA Cup game. Of course, the Grizzlies have still never won an in-season tournament / NBA Cup game. They went 0-4 last year. They, along with the Spurs, Wizards, and Bulls, have never won an NBA Cup game. So they play the Nuggets on Tuesday. Then, second night of a back-to-back, they host the Sixers on Wednesday. The Sixers are getting healthier. I assume we'll see Embiid and Paul George in that game. Then you go on the road to the Bulls. Then you're back home for Thanksgiving week. You play a bunch of home games against the Trailblazers, the Pistons, and the Pelicans, so a great opportunity to pick up some wins. Right now, the Grizzlies have won 4 straight games at home, and 6 of their next 7 games are at home. This week, tough matchups against the Nuggets and Sixers, but then some winnable games. Trailblazers, Pistons, Pelicans. Hopefully, they can take care of business in those games, and Ja Morant will be back before we know it. Anyways, thanks for listening. If you want to support this show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Thank you to everyone who has already signed up over there. All right. Hope you have a great Monday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.